Happy Friday, friends. Welcome into your Friday edition of HQ Spotlight here on CBS Sports Network. Haley Sutton alongside Jacqueline D'Agostino. This is my favorite way to end the week. Jacqueline, last night, obviously, it was so exciting out in San Francisco. Yes. NFL honors, a lot of hardware handed out. We saw the MVP finally given to Matt Stafford. We saw a fun speech from Teteroa McMillan. But we also saw the Hall of Fame class.
We did.
And both of us feeling kind of snubbed this morning.
We do. I've been feeling snubbed for years because Fred Taylor, it's again and again. The disrespect continues. And, of course,
Darren Woodson, my guy, get him in the Hall of Fame. He's so deserving. So we'll have to try again maybe another year.
Yeah, so I'm wiping my tears from Fred Taylor, as I have been for a long time. Also because Matt Stafford's daughters are absolutely so cute and iconic. And I was tearing up looking at their message to their dad when he won. It was amazing. But as you mentioned, the 2026 Hall of Fame class officially announced. No surprise here that this guy, Drew Brees, getting inducted. He retired as the NFL's leading career leader in both passing yards and touchdown passes. Currently second in both categories to, yeah, you guessed it, Tom Brady. Brees never won league MVP, but he did capture a Super Bowl MVP after leading the Saints to their first championship at the end of the 2009 season. So you see it there. Larry Fitzgerald, Luke Kuechly, Adam Vinatieri, Roger Craig, and Drew Brees. That is your 2026 Hall of Fame class, Haley.
You know, it's interesting. You mentioned Tom Brady, and of course, we've been talking about the Patriots and how they've been snubbed, whatever side of the coin you're on there with Bill Belichick and Robert Kraft. We kind of want to take you back in time here when it comes to Tom Brady. Everyone remembers the ghost retirement of Tom when he finally said, I'm done, I'm hanging it up. The Pro Football Hall of Fame put this tweet out. You'll notice the date down there, February 1st, 2022. Tom Brady, you can be a Hall of Famer in 2027. Of course, then the ghost, Tom Brady pulls the rug out from under us. He's not retiring. Cue that Wolf of Wall Street meme. I'm not leaving. And so the Pro Football Hall of Fame having to adjust their messaging a little bit. So here, a little less committing to him being in the Hall of Fame. This saying that he is eligible officially in 2028. It kind of feels like maybe Tom and Robert and Bill can all go in together.
Yeah, like it was all meant to be. And you know a certain quarterback who's probably thanking his lucky stars that Tom Brady delayed his eligibility 1 year? It is Big Ben because, yeah, he is eligible in 2027 for the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Ben Roethlisberger, he certainly has the resume, especially now that Tom Brady is not in the mix to be a first ballot Hall of Fame inductee. Of course, he helped Pittsburgh win 2 Super Bowls, got named to 6 Pro Bowls, all the things, you know it. And we're, of course, Ben Roethlisberger is in very good company here. Andrew Whitworth, a legend in Cincinnati, if you will, Cam Newton, Adrian Peterson, Gronk. Speaking of the Patriots, I feel like that's somebody who is going to be a first ballot Hall of Famer. Richard Sherman, the list go on and on and on. So as we know who is getting in for 2026, I feel like the competition gets a little bit tighter as we look ahead to 2027. Let's welcome in Mike Renner and JP Acosta as we not only reflect on the 2026 Hall of Fame class, but we're also going to push it forward to 2027. But as Haley mentioned, some snubs that we were discussing leading up to this, Bill Belichick, Robert Kraft. So, guys, what do you think, and Mike will come to you first, the fact that Adam Vinatieri got in over Bill Belichick and Robert Kraft, is it like apples and oranges, or is it still maybe make you scratch your head a little bit?
It definitely is apples and oranges, but it does speak to the absurdity of not letting Bill Belichick in the Hall of Fame on his first go around. And it is just pure revenge, truthfully, for whether it was Deflategate, whether it's all the hoopla around him since he's retired. He deserves to be in. One of the greatest coaches of all time, arguably the greatest coach of all time. If you didn't vote for him, I would argue you should probably have your vote taken away because you are making it more about yourself than you are the game of football. You cannot argue that Bill Belichick is a hallmark of the game of football, but Adam Vinatieri is too. We can't take anything away from Adam Vinatieri, the all-time leader in field goals made. He was a deserving candidate. This isn't about him. This is about the absurdity that Bill Belichick did not get in.
And I think that there's some sort of like there's an either or in this situation with Vinatieri or Belichick, and it feels like it's kind of playing against both guys. I mean, you can put both Vinatieri and Belichick into the Hall of Fame. Like Mike said, Vinatieri is the most field goals made all time, most points scored all time, but you can't you can't in good consciousness leave Bill Belichick out of the Hall of Fame on the first go-around. I do think that there's a little bit of trying to go after him, especially for Deflategate and some of the stuff that's happened when he was in New England, and especially how it ended in New England. But I do think eventually, probably next year, he's going to get into the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, so that brings us to 2027, us pushing it forward, and we want to break down, what you guys think and who is going to get in. And JP, you mentioned it already. Bill Belichick, you think 2027 is the year of Bill?
I do think it's the year of Bill in 2027. Just given everything that came from Bill Belichick, one, not getting in this year, and sort of the whole outrage over him not getting in, but also he is one of, if not the most successful coach in modern football history. You can't tell the story of the NFL post-2000 without telling the story of Bill Belichick and how his defenses have shaped modern football. You look at everybody in the NFL, they come from Belichick coaching trees. You look at how his defenses have impacted game plans. We talk a lot about that game against the Rams in the Super Bowl in 2018 and how he sort of stymied the most successful offense of that time in Sean McVay's Rams. So I feel like Belichick, given all of his accolades, and as well as just how he changed defenses in the NFL, he's going to get in next year.
And in those photos of him and all the confetti, I was trying to look and see if I saw Rob Gronkowski in any of those photos. I didn't, but he is on both of y'all's lists here, the ballot to get in. Another New England great who, Renner, he had toyed with the idea of coming out of retirement a couple of times and all the things, but is eligible in 2027.
Yeah, there's a good argument. He's the best two-way tight end of all time. The guys with comparable stats at the tight end position, Antonio Gates, Tony Gonzalez, Travis Kelce, none of them blocked the way Rob Gronkowski did. He was a true dual threat in that regard and quite literally sacrificed his body. That's the only reason he didn't have better receiving stats is because he didn't have the longevity of those guys because he was doing the dirty work in the trenches continuously, an elite run blocker, 4 Super Bowls, 4 first-team All-Pros, 14th all-time in touchdowns, 3rd amongst tight ends. If he's not a first ballot Hall of Famer, we got to start taking some people's votes away. This one's a no-brainer.
Yeah, this one's a shoe-in. Gronk is going to be a first ballot Hall of Famer. And like Mike said, the modern tight end is what Rob Gronkowski should be. He changed how we look at a tight end when it comes to receiving and blocking. He was like an extra offensive lineman on the field. And when you think about what some of the Patriots things that they did in 12 personnel with Gronkowski on the field, I think that just his evolution and how he changed the sport at the position, he's going to be a first ballot Hall of Famer. And I don't think it's very close.
And as mentioned, the certain someone who's probably very grateful that Tom Brady's eligibility got pushed back a little bit is probably Big Ben. And Mike, he is on your list as a first ballot Hall of Famer.
Yeah, I think it's kind of on the fringe if you just looked at his regular season performance. He was always kind of in the top 5 quarterback mix, never necessarily number 1, obviously never won an MVP. But what he does have is 2 Super Bowl rings. And if you go back and look, historically, 13 quarterbacks with multiple Super Bowl rings, only Eli Manning and Jim Plunkett amongst those aren't in the Hall of Fame. And Roethlisberger, his numbers compared to those guys, he wipes the floor with them. He did have much better numbers. 6-time Pro Bowler, 2-time yardage leader in terms of single season. And I think the thing that gets underrated with Roethlisberger, he always had defensive head coaches. You can't really name an offensive coordinator for Ben Roethlisberger that was this high-level play caller at the cutting edge of offensive design. A lot of it was just Big Ben being Big Ben. He's a Hall of Famer in my eyes.
All right, next up, Adrian Peterson, another no-brainer, the best running back of his generation. JP gets the nod from both of you guys.
Yeah, this one is also a no-brainer. I do think Adrian Peterson is one of the most outrageous athletes I think I've ever seen. And as someone who grew up watching Adrian Peterson, it was sort of insane watching his 2012 season coming off the torn ACL, rushing for 2,000 yards, almost getting the rushing record. But his dynamic ability as a runner, the size, the strength, the speed, he was a factor in the passing game as well. He was one of those guys that you knew was going to be an impact player coming out of college, and he did nothing but live up to those expectations. This is another guy who's going to be a first ballot Hall of Famer.
Yeah, the single game record holder in terms of yardage, the 2nd most all-time yards in a single season, 5th, in all-time single in terms of all-time rushing yards. This one is just like you gotta put him in.
So we're on the same page pretty much down the stretch here. And next up, we're talking about Andrew Whitworth, who, yes, won a Super Bowl with the Rams, but cannot forget his time, his decade in Cincinnati. I was there at the same time, and seriously, a celeb around town for the entire time. Mike, this is a guy who you think also is going to be getting in as a first ballot Hall of Famer?
Yeah, I think there's two ways to really make the Hall of Fame. One is to be just dominant for however period of time, 3 to 5 years. I think if you are clearly the best guy in the NFL, that to me makes you a Hall of Famer. But the other way is to have longevity. Andrew Whitworth played till he was 40, the first ever left tackle to start in the NFL at 40 years old. And when he was 40 years old, his final season in the NFL, he allowed only 16 pressures. The guy pass protected at a high level his entire career. That sort of longevity to me makes him a first ballot Hall of Famer. The fact that for 16 seasons in the NFL, this guy played at a Pro Bowl level, that is what makes you a Hall of Famer.
You don't really see left tackles play until 40, like Mike said. And the fact that Andrew Whitworth did that at a high level, it wasn't like he was a rotation player coming in for that Rams team that won a Super Bowl. He was a pinnacle. He was a pivotal starter for that team that won the Super Bowl. And the fact that he was consistently good all the way throughout his career, I think he's going to get in the Hall of Fame first ballot.
All right, now we're talking about Andrew Whitworth's colleague, which is not the proper title, but it's just a segue, guys. Richard Sherman, colleague now off the field, but again, on both of your ballots for a good reason, JP.
So Richard Sherman and the Seahawks were basically formative for my years of watching football as a kid. I mean, I remember the Legion of Boom. He was sort of the focal point of the Legion of Boom. And the fact that he came from being a 5th-round wide receiver from Stanford and turned into what was a standard setter in the NFL. I think when you look at how the NFL evaluated cornerback play and what you were looking for in a corner from that time when the Legion of Boom was really taking over the NFL, you were looking at a guy like Richard Sherman with that size, with the length, and you sort of saw a lot of teams take those guys that are a little bit taller, a little bit longer, and hopes that they could be the next Richard Sherman. But there's nobody that's going to be Richard Sherman in the NFL anymore. And the fact that he was able to do that, playing for the Seahawks, playing for the 49ers, All-Pro 3 times, it's just a shoo-in for him to be a first ballot Hall of Famer.
Yeah, a lot of people debated who was the most valuable guy from the Legion of Boom, right? Because there were so many. We're going to see numerous Hall of Famers from it. But to me, it was Richard Sherman, because you knew that on the left side of your defense, you could put everyone else on the other side. You could lean the other way because no one was going after Richard. 20 interceptions his first 3 seasons, and then basically teams just stopped attacking his way. I remember a Packers game, I believe it was 2013, early on the season, where quite literally, they never threw at him. Every single pass that game was going left. That was rare then. It's even rarer now. Richard Sherman was a one-of-one sort of dude, a first ballot Hall of Famer in my eyes.
Also a one-of-one sideline interview. We all know that. Renner, JP, we certainly appreciate it as we look ahead to 2027 and who's going to get in for that ballot on the Hall of Fame. And by the way, you can hear the guys on Pushing the Pile, their podcast. Make sure you watch right now. The very latest episode you can watch by scanning that QR code. I'm going to write into the pod and have a nice open conversation with JP, because I know we're on the same page that Fred Taylor needs to be in the Hall of Fame.